Okay, and we're going live. Yay! Okay, so today is the last one in this series, like unexpectedly long month and a half series of coffee chats with Judy. I figured like by this point you guys have heard a little bit of everything that you need to hear. So if you have any more questions beyond this point, you can just message me. And if I get enough messages, then I'll like do another coffee chat. But so far, I think you guys are prepared. Just like spend some time with your family and friends at this point, and then come to Duke and learn everything else the hard way.
All right.
Yeah. So just for live stream's sake, I'm Judy, rising senior, gonna be in RA in Wilson. Does all kinds of cool shit. You can ask me about that afterwards. But I've introduced myself so many times now, so it's getting kind of old. Madeline, you want to do your intro?
Yeah, I'm Madeline. I'm a rising senior, medieval Renaissance studies major. Um, I'm still not sure what I do on campus, uh, but I can talk about like freshman year. I didn't think I was going to come back to Duke, and I did, and I'm so glad that I did. So I I understand the rough transition thing.
Yeah, and I actually understand that as well because I was a transfer into Duke, so I've been on both sides. Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. Jared, who
Oh,
are you? What are you doing here?
well, I guess I'm a rising freshman. I'm going into Pratt, engineering, but I think, who was it that you had, Matt, that you had on your Pratt talk thing? I think you guys have effectively talked me out of that, so maybe not Pratt, but yeah, that's fine as of
Yeah,
right now.
well, we can talk about everything. A lot of the stresses that Pratt students face, normal students face anyway. See
Gotcha.
how I said Pratt students and normal students? This kind of a mistake, kind of not a mistake. Yeah. Hey, Hannah, you want to do your intro?
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm waving, but you can't tell because I'm invisible, and I'm an incoming freshman.
Cool. Well, what are you interested in, Hannah?
Um, Lots of things: psychology, environmental studies, and creative writing, mostly.
Good. Okay, cool. Do you guys have any questions to start us off with?
Okay, I have one that just popped up like while this started up. Um, uh, I know some of my friends who are currently rising sophomores that go to Duke that they've had a problem. This is kind of a regional specific thing, but essentially what happens in North Carolina is a lot of kids that go to either state or UNC in North Carolina. And what happens is like if you're a person who goes to Duke or something and you have friends who go to state or UNC, like when it comes time for everyone to come back home, a lot of the state or UNC people will talk about, perhaps how easy uh, their college is, and it's like it sounds kind of arrogant, but it's like it's something I've noticed recurring a lot, and I've noticed like a lot of students, specifically at Duke, kind of bitch about it, and even students who go to other schools and their friends go to state schools. Like, what have you experienced this? What is something that you would mention? Because for a lot of my friends who this has happened to, it kind of crushes them because people are talking about how easy their first year was, and like these people were used to getting A's and stuff in high school, and they go into college and they just get their ass kicked, and then like all their friends who they're kind of equal with all the way through high school, uh, you know, are taking something that they feel is easy.
Hmm. Yeah, I can talk about that. I think what I have to say is it will be also different from what Madeline has to say, because I'm from Canada and most of my friends went to the University of Calgary, which is it's like a nice university, but it's also a commuter university. So like people live with their parents for the first few years and then they kind of move off campus. So it's a different environment. So personally, when I go home, I don't feel any of that pressure to be like, yo, like do this and shit. It's like I'm better than everybody else, or so
I
there.
didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. I meant like, do you was there ever a point when you went home when your friends were talking about college and they made it sound like perhaps easier than your experiences were?
Yeah, so yes. So I actually so I can see both sides of this because I did go to the University of Calgary for a year and I went to Duke, and truthfully, Duke is a lot harder than the University of Calgary. However, Duke also has a lot more opportunities for you than the University of Calgary. So like right now, I have my own startup. If you told me that 3 years ago when I was at the University of Calgary, I would have been like, you're crazy. Like, stop talking crazy shit. Go see a doctor because that is like nothing in the books for me. And yet it's happened because of Duke. So what I would say is yes, Duke is harder than the average college, and Duke is harder than UNC or state schools. But the fact that you got into Duke means that you're qualified to go through these 4 years of classes at Duke. So when your friends come in and say like, yeah, Duke kicked my ass really hard and everything's super hard, like don't let that phase you because um, like growing up is if you don't have kind of a challenging process growing up when you're at Duke, then you're not putting yourself in enough situations where you can actually grow. Like a few professors that I've had at Duke shares that same philosophy, but the way that they say it is that you guys are paying a shit ton of money to come to this prestigious institution, right? So it would be unfair to you and to your parents or whoever is paying your tuition to give you easy coursework where you can get A's in. Honestly, the best classes I've ever been with, I've gotten less than A's. And that's fine because that shows that I actually learned new shit when I was going to these classes. If I came in and I was like, oh, this is so easy, I just like have to memorize integrals and that's everything that's on the test, then I essentially didn't learn anything. There are some really interesting articles written about this as well, like how now we're in this culture where you have to constantly achieve to be the best. And so we're so afraid of failure that we're going to stick to a route that we know that we're good at and not explore other routes where we might fail. And ironically, doing that actually sets us up for failure because all we're going to do is like for the rest of our life, we're just going to go on this one track where we think we can guarantee success the most. And yet we see like everything else is like around us um, where yes, the path might be a little bit more rocky, it might be less tread, but the rewards for you when you tread those paths and discover for yourself whether those paths are right for you or not is so worth the journey in itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madeline, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm not sure. I think I'm viewing the question differently than you probably mean it. Uh, I think it's a hard balance to pull off between understanding that you know, just because you're facing challenges doesn't mean that you're failing or you're not supposed to be at Duke. But at the same time, the whose life is harder game is a really easy one to fall into that's just as terrible.
Wait, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. The very last
It's
question you said, I heard the challenge thing, but then
it's easy to fall into the question of whose life is harder.
yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things I've learned here is that there's no across the board saying, my class is easier than your class, my school is harder than your school. That so much of that is individual professors, individual students and struggles. I guess I'm just wary of painting with too broad a brush because I know that that's something that sometimes happens. One of my least favorite basketball chants is safety school. I personally find that horrible.
So I think, yeah, I definitely agree with what Madeline is saying. Because and when you come to Duke, you'll start to understand this as well. Like when I was in high school, I had friends from pretty much like the same socioeconomical structures that I was at, and so it made sense that we did all these things together, and we viewed money the same way, and there weren't anything that like people couldn't do because of their family background. But then when we come to Duke, like you have everyone from first generation college students, where they come from like the most incredible, like incredibly unlikely conditions, and yet they made it into Duke. To like hedge fund babies, where they have generations and generations come to Duke and know presidents and live in Lakeview houses, which is fine. That's I think that's one of the beauties of Duke, but also at the same time, I you really have no nobody has any right to judge another person for their life being harder or easier or the decisions that they make in Duke or otherwise. Because everyone has their own journey coming into this point. But now, like as incoming freshmen, you guys have equal opportunity um, to achieve your dreams. So I would grab onto that equal opportunity. Like socialism sometimes is a pretty great thing when you come from such different economical backgrounds and family, education, all of that. And then, but you come to Duke at your level. And so it's like, how hard are you willing to work, and how adventurous are you willing to be to kind of achieve the dreams that you have in your mind? That's it.
I would push back against that just a little bit.
Sure.
As far as the idea of equal opportunities, I was surprised just how competitive so many things are here. Like a lot of the things that I might have done in high school because I enjoyed, there's only so large a group of people who can do that here. If it's like a competitive thing like mock trial or Model UN or debate, there are limited spots for travel things like that. And I was surprised even how competitive like some of the intramural sports are. I think part of that is just group students in general tend to be competitive, but also you do have so many people coming in with sports backgrounds, with really strong backgrounds and these other things that, yes, there are opportunities out there, but sometimes it can be hard to find the ones that are best for you. And just like sometimes you really have to work around at it because everything's competitive, it seems like, at times.
Okay, that's kind of a scary thought to me because like along that same line, how well do you say that would you say that like students who didn't have access to kind of analogous stuff in high school would be able to integrate into it? Like I didn't have a robotics team in high school. There wasn't one like around where I lived, and I was really looking forward or hoping to do robotics of some form or the other. Like how difficult would it be, like let's just say for me, for example, to come from a background of not having like any experience at all with robotics into doing something like that?
I feel like for something like that, that would be a lot easier because Judy can speak better to this, but engineering has so many lab spaces, so many, opportunities for students. Like ECU 110 is about you know, building a robot with a group.
Yeah, so competition. It's a kind of a tough thing to talk about. Like Madeline said, there are some things that are a lot more competitive than you would imagine, but there are other things that are that accept everyone. So you just have to go with the specifics. So in terms of the Duke Robotics Club, they accept everyone. You actually see a huge influx of students come in for the first 2 weeks. It doesn't help that they host pizza parties every single meeting, so you're not sure like whether people are coming for the food or for the robotics. But it starts to like as the semester goes on, you start to actually see who's interested in the club itself and who's interested in just the hype initially for the club. But something like robotics, if you're interested in it and you're willing to put in the amount of work that like the team requires you to put in to understand like how the circuits work, how the different functions work, then you are definitely going to be a very valuable member on the team. I can't think of very many clubs at Duke, honestly, that require you to have prior experience. Like,
Okay,
yes, some of the dancing groups and some of the singing groups, you need to be a decent singer to make it in, or you need to be a decent dancer to make it in. But there are so many special interest groups like debate club or mock trial or um, Oh my gosh, I'm so debate club and mock trial are essentially like in the same category, but it's like so many clubs on the entire spectrum where they want students who are interested in the topic, and you don't necessarily have to have any experience. You just have to go in and say, I'm going to commit like 5 hours a week to do this, and 5 hours a week is essentially enough to be a valuable member of the team. Um, I no, well, I was going to say something else. The only the only time where you would find yourself like not being able to contribute to a team very much is if you actually slacked off. So if you like slack off for the first half of the semester and you come in during the second half and you're like, hey guys, I'm ready to go. I mean, you're not gonna have like as much to contribute just because everyone else is already a few chapters ahead of you, and you because of what you chose to do your first half of the semester is now left behind.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
thank you for saying, but let me perhaps better set the goalposts here. Do you think it would be feasible for someone to like kind of a stupid question. Do you think it would be feasible for like just to come in with no experience into something and like maybe through sheer willpower or something like that be able to actually be good in something like that? Because or essentially, do you think you would just be blocked out by all the people who have like all the previous experience, and, you know, all the knowledge going into it? Do you think there's okay? Do you think there's any room for, I guess, upward mobility in that sense?
yeah. Well, so I have a lot to say about this, but Madeline, do you want to go first?
Uh, like you said earlier, it seems like I think it's really area specific. You know, depending on what exactly it is that you're trying to do.
Mhm. Yeah. So in order to answer that question, Jared, let me tell you my story. So I transferred into Duke in my sophomore year, and they put me in Wanamaker, which is the substance-free dorm. I'd still the substance-free dorm. They're actually changing a little bit because Wanamaker has so few tenants that they're having trouble like fill in all their rooms, and so they're changing the substance-free into like half substance-free and half not. But when I was at Duke, it was completely substance free. And I was right across the fire lane from Meyer Court, which great like SLG. But like you have to understand, I didn't know a single person in North Carolina. I was just transferred from Canada, and every single night, basically every single night for the first week and a half, I could hear music like playing from Meyer Court. And like, people were having fun. You could hear people laughing and like greeting each other. And I was alone in my dorm room, and I felt just so alone. It's like completely alone. And I call my mom, and I would say like, "What have I done? Like I could be at home right now. I could be with all my high school friends. I could be so happy right now, and yet I am alone in my dorm room listening to other people have fun." Um, that I was able to, you know, kind of just like tough that period out. That time was like not a fun time for me, but I toughed it out and I joined my a cappella group, who was my saving grace, especially in my first semester, because they accepted me just like without any kind of question, without any kind of doubt that I belonged to Duke. And when other people believe so fiercely about something about you, then you start to believe it in yourself. So I definitely have my a cappella group to thank. Shout out to Something Brown, Something Blue. And I also walked on to the women's rowing team. So I was never an athlete in high school. I like recreationally did dragon boating on the weekends, but it was kind of like, you know, like flimsy arms, like splash water, fun, giggles, and never as competitive as an NCAA Division One team. And yet I walked on because it was just, dude, it was something to do when I was at Duke. And like, what kind of opportunities are you gonna get for the rest of your life where you can be an NCAA Division One athlete from just like a normal person who came from Canada? So walked on the team, bonded okay with the team. Like, and this part you'll come to accept as well. Like there are some like Duke is filled with such wonderful people, but there are some people where you just like you talk to them and you're on the same wavelength. Like every single thing that you say, just like it's like mind alignment all over the place. And the other people, you're like, like you're nice and you're cool and I can hang out with you, but it's not high density conversation. It's not exactly like I can't be best friends with you. I'll be good friends with you and I'll say hi to you when I see you on campus. But like really, don't settle for good enough. Like settle for excellent. So my rowing team was good, and I learned a lot of discipline from that, and also like I had a sense of identity from being on the rowing team because now I can say like I am a Duke rower and I belong to this team, thus I belong to Duke. So like through all these things, I tried to find my identity at Duke, and eventually I did find it, which I have no doubt you will also be able to find it if you just put yourself out there. Now, if you actually stayed in your room every single day and you like play your uh, League of Legends or whatever kids are playing these days, I've never gone into video games. But whatever like solo video game you play and then you don't attend any of the events, then yeah, you're going to feel kind of left out because that's your own fault. You didn't take uh, like a great you didn't take advantage of the great opportunities that are available to you. So your original question of am I going to be left behind if I don't have any experience? The answer is absolutely not if you don't let yourself do that.
Okay, thanks.
Jared, do you have another question?
I have a lot of questions, but
Sure.
I don't really know how to frame them.
Yeah, so
Uh,
here, I actually think so, Madeline, I didn't know that you considered transferring out after your first year.
yeah, it
So,
sounded like a juicy story.
huh?
It sounded like a juicy story. Please tell us.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to hear your story and why did you want to transfer out and why did you decide not to transfer out?
I'm not sure how much of a juicy story it is. A lot of it is like I came very close to not applying to Duke. I came very close to not coming to Duke.
Mhm.
Uh, when I made my decision, I did it because I liked that vision of who I could be as. I felt very insecure that I wasn't pushing myself as much as I should have been in choosing Duke. That I was taking like the easy way out
By
in
choosing Duke?
by choosing Duke. Yeah.
Okay, well, I come from the opposite spectrum. I was pushing myself to the limit by coming to Duke. Yeah, but anyway, go on. It just shows you that a lot of different people come to Duke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So coming into college, um, I figured out after about a month that I was severely depressed and had been for a while. The giveaway should have been how much I cried under my bed freshman year. Um, but like I did marching band and that helped a lot. Like that was what first got me, going to therapy, kept me going. Like the classes were good. I felt in some ways I wasn't being pushed enough, but I was just overall so conflicted about everything, still feeling like I'd chosen the easy way out, and was debating taking a semester off or transferring out. And because of the way the rules were, if you took a semester off, you had to reapply, and I didn't think I could do that. So I left freshman year thinking I might end up transferring to the university near my house to finish out college. Um, I stuck it through. Sophomore year still kind of sucked in several ways, but like I started doing things that put me out there a bit more. Like I joined a sorority, which is something I never would have thought of doing. Um, and over the last couple of years, I've somehow built up a support network to where for the first time I was like, yeah, I had a couple good semesters. Like I felt good about them. I didn't have major breakdowns during them. So I'm not sure it's so much a juicy story, Jared. It's just
A very juicy story. Yeah, I was just sort of it piggybacks several questions for me, maybe some for Judy. But yeah, the first one being, if going to Duke was your easy way out, like what did you have planned? Were you gonna like fly to the moon or something? Like what,
Um,
like swim the English Channel? Like
I was gonna go to MIT.
okay, I can feel that now.
I came in as math and public policy. Um, and yeah, just I got in early to MIT too, so that was like 4 months of that cultural pressure on the other side.
Hmm.
And then coming to Duke, and even people at Duke are like, dude, I wish I could have gone to MIT. Like, why would you turn that down? And you combine that with realizing that I like math, I'm good at math, I still am involved in it, but I really love the humanities. Like, that was hard because that was part of like an identity shift too.
So that was like the breaking point to you, the whole humanity thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, so from what you're describing, it sounds like you, the course of your college career, you've made progress, I guess, on yourself with, the going out to the different clubs and outings and sororities and stuff. Like, do you think that was something that you could have done your freshman year and would have helped you immediately, or do you feel like it was something that definitely, it was a process, like that wouldn't have happened this fast. It was something that you needed to work through yourself.
I think it was definitely a process. Um, like for me, it took me several months before I was even okay with the idea of like going to office hours is really hard. Like especially when you compare it to high school where like you always know where your teachers are going to be if you have a question, want to talk to them, whatever. Office hours tend to feel much more formal, and because teachers were a strong support network for me in high school, that was a hard transition. Um,
Would you say that's true for all the classes though? Because I've seen some people post on the Facebook chat that they go and like bring donuts and stuff, and they just like chill out in office hours. So do you think it's on a class to class basis, or is it like much more homogenous?
some professors are definitely more open to that than others. Like I've had professors say, "Please come have coffee with me during my office hours." Um, but they also generally hold their office hours not like in an office.
Gotcha.
Um, and it can be more awkward when you're still first trying to like get to know the professor um, and get a feel for their personality. And when you go into office hours for them, is it okay to just want to try to get to know them, or are they a little more the type who wants you to actually have questions?
I would actually disagree with that, Madeline. And I think it does depend on the classes, but every single professor that I've had, when they say like come to office hours, they actually mean like come bring your dog, come bring your nail polish, come like bring coffee, just let's just chat. So I think in a way, office hours is what you make of them. So if you want to like be very formal with your professors, be like, "Hi, Dr. XYZ, I have a question that you can answer," and then they answer the question, and you say, "Thank you very much," and you leave. Like that is definitely just as plausible as having a relationship where you say like, "Hey, like I'm on first name basis with someone." The professor's like, "Hey, Becky, you want to come like join me for dinner, or like you want to get a coffee like between your classes?" And that's also like just as possible. So I wouldn't worry so much about office hours, honestly. Come to Duke and then just like see for yourself. Some professors, the minute you just hear them talk, you'll know like, oh, that's a Becky. Like that's a professor that I can take out for coffee or for ice cream. And some professors they talk and you're like, oh, I gotta like steer kind of clear of this professor, or like I have to be a little bit more formal with them because that's like the style that they like. But Duke professors are just as bright as Duke students as they come.
Yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm being a little pessimistic, and I'm really not trying to scare you off. I think for me, part of it was a bit of social anxiety, as well as having some professors who their office hours were all just like by appointment, email them for office hours. And like for me, that's a lot harder than actually having a set time you can drop in.
Madeline brings up a good point that we didn't talk about, and it's like not mentioned in any of the chats, which is that Duke really rewards extrovertism. So if you're willing to put yourself out there like the way that I did, then yes, like opportunities come to you right away. But like statistically speaking, 50% of incoming students are introverts, and like Duke doesn't make it as easy for introverts to feel like they're part of the Duke community. So I would suggest, like, thinking back of when I had my loneliest times in Wanamaker, I would have if I knew this at the time, I would have gone talk to my RA. Like that's what RAs are for. Our doors are always open, and there's a couch in our in the room just for you guys to sit on and just to like talk about all your troubles. And even like when I hear Madeline, when you said like you spent your like a lot of the time crying under your covers freshman year, like that breaks my heart because I all I can think of is like, where is your RA? Like, where is that one person that you can call or text at any time, like during the night or during the day, and say like, "Hey, I miss home. Can you come bring me a cup of hot chocolate?" And we'll just talk about like what great barbecue we had back in my hometown, or like how high the snow would pile up in the winter times.
Okay, well, I mean, I think if you're at that point, you would find it hard to contact someone, you know.
That's
Well,
also
also, my RA was a third-year grad student who barely spoke English and was almost actually never in the dorms.
oh, jeez. Well, in that case,
So,
if you do that again, you should call me. I am, even though I'm only an RA in Wilson, I'm actually effectively an RA for all of East Campus, especially because I'll be doing part-time in the spring semester, so I'll be available to you guys all.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jared, I'm going to take one last question from you because I have to get back home by 10 minutes, 9:49, so I gotta go now.
Yeah, that's always a problem. I don't really have any more questions. I don't have anything that's like, too pressing.
Sure. Alan, do you have any last words of advice?
Speak your wisdom into me. Give me the essence of the Blue Devil here. That's what I need to know, man.
Um,
um, I don't know. You're gonna screw up. Just don't take it too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. It's really not the end of the world, and there's a lot of people there who want you to succeed.
mhm, yeah. I would definitely second that. Like, if you don't screw up in your first semester, you're doing something wrong. You're taking the easy road. You should be harder on yourself than to take the easy road. So screw up, but make sure you screw up forward. Don't like screw up backwards, and then when you get up, you're like two steps behind. Like screw up forward, dust yourself off, and then realize, hey, actually, like by falling on my face, I actually proceeded two steps forward. And the worst case scenario, come to well, not worst case scenario, like any case scenario, come talk to your RAs. Find like that one mentor on campus that's got your back no matter what. They can text at any time during the day or during the night. And then worst case scenario, call home and like hear some loving words from your family or your best friends and like eat ice cream over Skype. I did that a lot in my first year. Like eat Cheerios over Skype, like do makeup over Skype, whatever. Like whatever floats your boat, de-stress, and then come back to Duke and be like, hey, you know what? I got into Duke in the first place, which means I can do it, and now I feel rejuvenated to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Confident.
confidence, yeah.
Confident.
Great. Okay, so one last thing. So I'm pushing out an app called Walla, Walla, as in everyone's a wallaby, and you hop to your next activity. So all the RAs will be posting activities that they host on the app, but you can also, like anybody, all the freshmen can post any kind of activity that you want to attend. So hopefully that like brings the East Campus closer together and Duke in general closer together. So look out for us. We'll be tabling very aggressively when you guys come on campus. Okay, well,